Yeah, I mean, like for me, when I'm sticking to my routine, just any routine, like life routine, working out, eating well, there's a huge correlation between like just sticking to my rules and then in turn trading well, versus like if there's a day I like sleep in, I can almost guarantee I'll lose money on that day just
Yeah.
because I wasn't following the routine. It wasn't doing the things I needed to do to, master myself. All right, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Steady Trade. I got Jack and Kyle here with me again. This week, we're going to review the trades they mentioned last week, go over a couple others, but I want to talk about how the market's kind of shifted. It's definitely slowed down, especially this past week. So I'm curious what your guys' take is on that and how you're approaching the market just going forward.
I'll start off. Yeah, I agree with Matt. Come on Monday. So Friday was slow. I only took one trade. This is to start off May. Monday I thought was gonna be slow as well, but we actually did get BYZN, which we can talk about, which kind of came out of nowhere. Like it was a potential play, but I didn't think it was gonna be as sweet as it did. So then when that happened, my week started off really well. Yesterday was pretty good, and today was decent. But yeah, as starting off Monday to now, it's definitely slowed down. And even for tomorrow, I don't see anything, particularly great. So we'll just have to keep monitoring how the month continues. So.
And you, Jack?
Yeah, it's definitely been off to a slow start here in May. I sent out a tweet there on Monday, and I just kind of noticed that it was slowing down. Last Friday was slow. Ever since the UAVS, that big Nova, it seems like everyone's been just a little more timid out there, and there just hasn't been too big of runners and too much volume compared to previous weeks where we just see stuff going nuts every single day. So it's definitely a little bit slower. And like Kyle was saying, BYZN, that was a nice OTC play actually. But NASDAQ definitely feels like it's slowing down a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of go on defense mode, hopefully for the rest of the month, is if it does continue to slow down, but always be prepared to nail it when it comes there. And like, seems like this week especially, it's kind of every day is getting a little bit slower for me, like a little bit slower just in profit wise and plays wise. And tomorrow me and Kyle were talking, we really don't have anything that we're too keen on trading, so we'll see what happens tomorrow, but it's looking super slow. And last year it started to get slow for me when I was trading OTC longs last April, so it's already been like a longer stretch than last year, so I'm grateful. And we'll kind of see what happens, but that's all I got.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to pull up some charts. All right, so I pulled up StocksToTrade here. We have CYDY, which was one of their picks last week. I think we recorded, what did we record on the 28th? So after this first red day here, and they were expecting it to, fall watching the first red day. It's been a little choppy. It kind of goes with the theme that the market's just slowing down. So Kyle, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I think we talked after the first red day. We were expecting a second one, and that is what happened. I kind of butchered it, to be honest. Let's if we go to intraday, it was, what day was it? It was this day, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So immediately, like I think I said, if it was gapping down, wasn't gonna, if it was, I would have opened, it was gonna clearly show that it wasn't gonna be able to spike out the open, that I wanted to get short, and that is exactly what happened. We gapped down. I believe the close was 149 or 349. We open up at 348, so just a slight gap down, which is what I wanted. I immediately shorted out the open. It pulled. I actually missed my cover here, which was probably the first mistake. I didn't cover any here. I let it bounce on me. I then did add on the bounce, but then I believe during this day, there were other runners. There was like, I don't even remember their names, but there were 2 or 3 other plays that I completely missed. I think one was NAT, and there was another one. And because I missed those plays, I immediately got very emotional, and I just thought, like, today's going to suck. I just missed the 2 plays that would have paid me way more than CYDY does. And so ultimately, I thought this bounce should have pulled right back to its lows and went lower. And so the fact that we started, consolidating right here a little bit, I actually covered it all at 340. It was now, in hindsight, a huge mistake, and it was an emotional decision. I should have kept my risk at red green around 350, but for whatever reason, and for having FOMO for missing other plays, and then feeling like this wasn't going to work the way it wanted to, I actually covered, locking in like $100, and then ultimately it just dies, right? This should have been a $900 win, but at least I was on the right track, like I was timestamped last week. It played out exactly how I wanted to, but unfortunately my execution just wasn't there that day. So
nice. You want to pull up
yeah.
CREX, and Jack, you want to talk about that one because that was also one we did last week. Also on the short side, I believe.
Yep. Go ahead, Jack. You want to start?
Okay, so we were talking about CREX last week, and just especially about how that short squeeze into the close was so nuts. So going into the next day, I was a little timid of it, and I actually just completely missed that entire play. As you can see there was relatively no strength the entire day. So there was never really a perk where I could get short. I kind of wanted a morning spike, but it was just weak the entire day. And there was some failure around the 350 area. You could have shorted it for like 50 cents or show down to 3 if you timed it perfectly. But, I don't want to trade something where if I nail the top and the bottom, I'll make 50 cents when my risk could potentially be 50 cents or more if it started spiking against me. And I just kind of blindly shorted it at the open. And it just being like a lower float and the way that it squeezed last time, I really just wanted to be short into a spike on that one, and unfortunately we didn't get it. So that was also gave us some FOMO. And what was this? This was Friday, Kyle, last Wednesday. It was a little emotional because everything just died.
This was Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah,
everything just died bounceless, unfortunately, and that just happens sometimes. So I'd rather not make a trade than make a trade and lose.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you guys are still 100% though on your stocks to be on your radar. So good calls. And I see you have UAVS pulled up there. And I think that was both of your guys' largest trade ever. Is that correct? You both crushed that one.
Not mine, but it was certainly on the higher end. I think it was Jack's best ever. Yeah, totally. Let me pull it up here. You want to go over it, Jack?
Yeah, so UAVS was kind of on watch from when it started breaking out sub $1, and me and Kyle had a couple scalp shorts on it the day before, and I could just already tell that it was just a really nice stock with really nice action. And just kind of knowing the background on it, they were running it up into a conference call, and for the stock just to run up $1 to $5 on drone news and going into a conference call, I was kind of interested in shorting it if it showed like the correct action. So coming into this day, it was looking a little weak pre-market, and I think the best thing I did on this stock was avoid it all of pre-market. And that crack right there is, some people would short there and then it would just squeeze up at the open. I saw not just
I shorted there.
Yeah, I
took a loss there.
Yeah, and I also saw that Bao shorted there too and lost some. And I was just very happy that I avoided that so I could go into the day with a very clear head on it. And luckily, right off the open, I kind of got a little bit short into one of the spikes. And I was just kind of feeling it out on the front side, trading it super conservatively. But I was able to build myself a cushion on the stock. And then from there, it started to get some backside price action. And me and Kyle both started scaling into it as it continued to fail. And then the conference came out and it spiked a little bit, and we got a little bit nervous because we both had shorted the CYDY conference call a couple weeks ago. And CYDY actually squeezed us out after showing weakness. So me and Kyle covered some a little bit when it started perking there, whereas mouse arrow is, but then we got some ads back, and just one of the craziest things happened, and the stock actually halted due to volatility, and it was the longest volatility halt that we have seen. And actually, they couldn't find anyone to bid the amount of market sells that were going through. So the stock gapped down 50%, and just that massive 5.8 million share candle right there to fill all the people. So obviously the conference call was terrible, and this thing just absolutely lost it and definitely screwed over a lot of longs, because if you didn't sell on that crack, you're getting gapped down to 50%. And, a lot of people say, short squeezes, they're terrible. But I mean, what's more terrible than getting caught in a stock that's in a long position and getting gapped down 50% on? At least with a short squeeze, you control your fate. You control if you stop out into that strength. With this, there's no controlling that 50% gap down. It's just a deadly thing trading these penny stocks. And that's why I've kind of really grown to like the short side, is because these things are crap. And with all the offerings, the midday offerings, and people getting into day trading, you know, at Robinhood, and just everyone wanting to be a day trader and all these coronavirus pumps, people are just buying. So I think kind of the edge is back better on the short side. And that being said, you know, sure, we could get a BPTH pretty soon, just blow up a ton of people. But as long as you cut your losses, you're going to be good. You just need to, you know, avoid the massive volume day ones that just are strong over VWAP all day. If you play the add game, keep reshorting, you know, that's just death. So it's key to just wait for backside and then just scale in from there. And then every so often, you know, you'll potentially could get lucky and you get halted on, you get this OTC gets the skull and crossbones, OTC gets halted, and they open up very, very low, and there's no chance in covering, and you're making 50% or more on your money. Whereas it's kind of hard to get that on the long side too, unless you're overnight and there's just a massive gap up. But that's still a lot of stress because you have to go to bed worrying about your position and wondering where it's going to gap up on the next day. So that's my 2 cents there. And I'm sorry about the rant, but that's how I feel, guys. That's how I feel.
No, that was really good advice. I'd like to emphasize a tweet. I think it was a tweet that you had where you said you weren't going into the day expecting your largest gain ever. You were just sticking to your process, and then something like this happened, it halted. And I mean, you had your largest gain ever, but it wasn't like in the plans. You weren't thinking about the money.
No, I was simply just trading, and I got lucky with the halt and gap down. That's it.
Yeah, that's key, I think. You want to skip over to BYZN and Kyle explain that one. That was a very nice short as well.
So this one, this is a really solid OTC runner. It started its run from, you know, under 5 cents all the way now up to going, you know, parabolicking to over 40. So me and Jack were interested. We knew this had pump-like qualities to it, and you know we didn't have getting emails on it to confirm it was a pump. But you know, if actually I can actually show you this real quick. You go to, like, you know, I've showed this on my very first YouTube video. You go to otcmarkets.com. Let's have a load here real quick, and you type in, you know, the ticker BYZN, and it comes down like shell risk. Boom. So immediately right there, otcmarkets.com tells you right how legitimate of this OTC is, and the fact that it has shell risk right here. You know, the OTC market themselves literally think this stock has shell-like qualities. So, and the fact that we knew it was a pump in the past and it's now running from 35 cents to 40 cents, you know, we're gonna, again, like I said before in past episodes, you know, they're guilty until proven innocent. So that's how we decided to trade it. Me and Jack we took a couple starters into this huge run up. The reason why I'm being, because just it was an overdone spike, you know, goes up from 20 cents to 40 cents in a matter of the first hour. So we actually did short a very small, I think like 5,000 shares, 5,000 shares here. And we had the plan of this being the top. Now, come into this day, we were looking for this move here to come out in the morning. So when it didn't, we were watching closely, but we did see that it double topped here and pulled. So at this point, we're now just waiting for when is it going to finally roll over, right? Because on these 2 days, it immediately held green, went up all day, held green, went up all day. So when is the first day going to happen where it goes red? And so it almost did it here. It held, bounced a little bit here, but couldn't remember. Throughout this entire period, there was no higher high, right? First high, next high was lower, and even this high almost, you could say it's a double top, but it was still technically lower. And so at some point, you know, as it keeps fading, it goes red. That's when we added our size in. I believe, you know, I only had 5,000 shares from this day, and then I added in 15,000 shares here. And this panic was just awesome. Again, I expected to maybe swing this for a day or two for it to go down. And within, you know, 20, 30 minutes, we're now down, you know, 50%. So we ended up covering most of it. I think all of it actually on this day at 15 cents because that was actually a previous breakout level right here. Remember, this is the top at 15 cents here. So when it got there, we pretty much knew our downside was limited. And so we covered there for a sweet game to start off this week. So that's how it went.
Beautiful. Gotta love it when, I mean, cracks 50% there. That's awesome trade.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to drop that fast, but the fact that it did, just the fact that it dropped this quick almost confirmed with us that like this was a promotion, right? We can't prove it, but when something just drops like this hard and this fast, someone owned shares and someone was dumping, you know. That's just how I see it. So that's likely what it was.
It was just such an awesome panic. I kept telling Kyle, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. Just like that whole red candle, because it was just the asks just following down, then keep hitting the bids, keep hitting the bids. So there's no, like, it's perfect action to hold through. It keeps confirming your thesis. It's not bouncing all the way back, and kind of like how CYDY is all over the place. This was just a straight dump, and that's how you're really able to capitalize in the OTCs, is just when it's that kind of action. You can stay patient, and we held right for the breakout level. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm a long trader, but there's basically no bounce there. Like there's a lot of times on these tanks, there's panic dip buys, but just going along with your theme that this is a promotion, like the bounce on it was so pitiful compared to what a good OTC bounce should look like. So well done, boys. So from a couple listeners, we've gotten some questions about the importance of mastering yourself and kind of like staying in your own lane. So I was hoping to end this episode, both Kyle and then Jack could maybe give some tips, some of their thoughts on how they've mastered themselves and became profitable traders as a result.
You want me to start it, Jack, so you can think about your answer? Yep. Not okay. Mastering yourself. I like this topic. I think it's actually, and I mean, my opinion from what I see from the questions I get, I think it's overlooked. I think when you first start trading, you realize that trading is not so much about the chart patterns and the analysis. Like that comes, if you can learn, which most people can learn, the trading terminology and all that can be learned quickly. That can be learned in 4-6 months to a year. It's the personality and the emotion and the discipline and all the intrinsic things that are inside you that you have to handle. And so the reason why I think it's overlooked is because so many people don't even do that before trading, right? Even before trading, most people don't look at like, how could I improve my social skills? How just kind of just self-help in terms of, most people look it over. And so for me, I think I was able to kind of speed up my trading learning curve, because even before trading, I got very interested in, how can I be healthier, right? How can I be stronger in the gym? How can I improve my communication skills with my friends? Like just naturally who I was someone I wanted to continually improve me. And so once trading came, that was no different, right? I had this framework of how I go about things to not only improve myself in one area, but all areas. So that's definitely, how I've done that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, when I'm sticking to my routine, just any routine, like life routine, working out, eating well, there's a huge correlation between like just sticking to my rules and then in turn trading well versus like if there's a day I like sleep in, I can almost guarantee I'll lose money on that day just because I wasn't following the routine. It wasn't doing the things I needed to do to, master myself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Jack, your turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to note there that was quite beautiful, Tony Robinson, aka Kyle. But I won't bore you guys with the same exact things that Kyle was kind of saying, and I completely agree with that. And I was into the gym and just mastering myself and just self-help and getting better because I was just unhappy with myself. And when I was like 17, 18, I just wanted to get better. So just doing all of that, like Kyle was saying. And then kind of the thing that I want to talk about is feeling every emotion that you possibly can in trading. And that was kind of huge for me because at first you're going to feel things that like you haven't felt before when you have money on the line and these things are ticking up and down. You're going to feel the highest highs and the lowest lows throughout that. And you just kind of need to learn how to deal with that emotion. And you have to know your triggers. So just like knowing when a stock's going to break out and buying over that trigger price, you have to know when something happens to you, that's going to make a trigger and you're going to do something that could potentially snowball. So learning and trying to spot something coming at you that's going to not help your trading, you need to, learn those things by making mistakes, right? And then ideally you can remember it and not make the same mistakes again. So that's kind of a thing that I had to go through because I wasn't very disciplined at first, and a bunch of things happened to me, all up and down. So just going through those, those drawdowns and those losses and those trades where things just happen and they were super unfortunate. Like if you get, for instance, you get stuck in the UAVS halt long, like, and you can't back hold that. You can't go and try to revenge trade something else because there's no way your head's in the right spot if something like that happens to you. And on the other side of it too, I had a huge gain on UAVS, and I knew that, I wasn't going to be on my A game because I just made a ton of money very quickly. So I was kind of hoping that UAVS wouldn't even have like a beautiful bounce back to green to red where I would have to reshort, because I knew that I would probably already not judge it very clearly because I had already made so much on it. And it's not really about cockiness or anything. It's just about whatever it is inside you that you might not trade it right. It's not like a boring old day where you're waking up, you're brushing your teeth, you're turning on your monitor, scanning your news, you're seeing the stock, you're taking your single, you're moving on. It's not one of those days. It's something where something big happens, and that's what you got to watch out for.
Great advice. Yeah, I agree from both of you. Another thing that comes with mastering yourself is a lot of new traders especially will compare themselves to other successful traders. And there's a difference between like learning by their trades and their examples versus trying to like match their results and like trade the way they trade and like try to trade with bigger size than you should. And I mean, that you just shouldn't do that. I don't know how else to say it, but you just can't.
You're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself by doing that. Yeah. It's not anyone else's journey but yours. So just don't even worry about anyone else.
Just know your triggers. If you're going to look at someone on Twitter and you're going to see someone with 100K P&L or whatever it is to you, 2K P&L, 5K P&L, and say, I'm getting FOMO, guess what? There's a block button on Twitter. Block them out of your life. You have to defend your process at all costs possible. Defend you.
Awesome. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks so much, guys. And I mean, we didn't have any watches for next week because it's slowing down, but I'm definitely looking forward to our conversation next week.